Hello, fine folks of Wellness 365 group. How you doing today? Sorry, I should have set that up before I came on. Boy, the light filtering in from my from my front window makes it look like I have, I don't know, special cameras going on. But it's just me. It's just the regular old me here. Anyway, so we're on day 5, and I am so excited. We've been hanging out together every day this week. Hopefully, I've been sharing some things that you found really exciting and informative and helpful, and that you'll be able to apply those in your life. I wanted to talk up today about the last subject, which actually, all of the topics I've talked about so far are really close to my passion, but this one really hits home for me. And I want to talk about what we say to ourselves, the self-talk that we participate in. So what is self-talk, first of all, right? Self-talk is all about the things that go on inside our brain. Sometimes we actively talk to ourselves. We're recognizing it. That's our internal monologue going on. But what most people don't understand or don't think happens is that before we make a decision, every time we make a decision to act or engage in a certain behavior, we think about it. And it happens so quickly that sometimes we don't even recognize that it's happening. But it's really cool if you slow the process down and start to recognize some of those patterns. And what's helpful in looking at some of those patterns is you'll be able to tell that you're either encouraging or discouraging yourself to engage in healthy choices. So the clinical term for all of that is called cognitive restructuring. And that term comes from the psychological theory of cognitive behavioral theory. And it started way back in the day. And Albert Ellis is one of them, and Mr. Erickson is another one, and Bandura is another theorist that started back in the day about focusing on our cognitions and how they control our behaviors, and then of course the social learning theory. And the reason why all of this, you can learn more about that if you just want to look them up, or I'd be happy to chat with you about them because they're so exciting to me. And I've got books and books and books about all that stuff. But I think the key that I want to get across here is that social learning theory is how we learn things from other people, and so the environment that we grew up. I talked yesterday about foods, and I talked Wednesday about what we call primary foods and our relationships. And I'm not talking about just spiritual or intimate relationships, but also our family environment. So we learn by watching other people, and that is Albert Bandura. And then looking at the cognition of what we say to ourselves impacts the choices that we make. And that really comes from Albert Ellis. And I think that the combination of those two created that cognitive behavioral theory that we can impact behavior, choices that we make in the future by reviewing the thoughts that we have and our current behavior that we're engaging in and the behavior that we're exposed to, that we're learning from. And so you all know that I'm a counselor. I am a licensed professional clinical counselor, supervisor designation here in the state of Ohio. And I also am a licensed social worker in the state of Ohio. And I use this on a regular basis. So how do I know that this works? I know it works because I've seen it happen. I've seen it in my own life and in all of my clients' life. So professionally, I work with a completely different population. So I work with the citizens returning to the community, returning from incarceration. So cognitive behavioral theory has been proven through research to be the most effective form of treatment for those individuals returning to our community from incarceration. And so because I believe that, and I've seen it happen so rapidly, so successfully, and with sustainability, that I started applying it in my own private practice, working with other clients that are not involved in the justice system, and I saw changes there. And of course, I used it on myself. I mean, why not? If it works for everybody else, why not try it on myself? And I've seen it work. Now, here's the catch, right? It's a habit. It's something that we have to build. It's something that we have to grow into. So it's breaking old habits and it's forming new ones. And that's what I want to talk to you about today, is having the self-talk. So what we say to ourselves really plays this huge role in that we either talk ourselves into or talk ourselves out of making healthy choices. And so by identifying the patterns of thought that lead us into making choices of, overeating the food that's in front of us, or stopping for, fast food instead of going home and cooking what it is that we are planning to cook. Buying the Easter candy instead of avoiding that and having other options for Easter baskets for our kiddos. All those kinds of things play a role in how we are going to be able to manage the urges that come when we're faced with that. So, for instance, if we look at like Easter candy, Easter's almost here, it's 2 weeks away, and so Easter candy is out there galore. Now, I haven't been to the grocery store, but I know it's there, and so some of you might have actually bought some Easter candy so that you could fill up your Easter baskets for your kiddos, or maybe even you make one for yourself. Who knows? Who am I to judge? But if we buy it and say that we're not going to eat it, we're actually increasing the risk that we're going to break down and cave and eat that candy. So one, exposure to it, right, is going to increase our risk. But then two, we can actually fall into that trap of, I'm just going to have one. Or, it's a treat for myself. I'm going to have just one piece of candy and then I'll put the rest away. And one becomes 3, and then 3 become 10, and the next thing we know, we have to go out and buy another bag of candy because we ate it all before we put it in the Easter baskets. So some of it is just controlling what is in front of us, and some of it is controlling what we haven't done yet. So part of how to identify those patterns is to slow things down and kind of review what's happened in the past. One, I'm working with the clients who are returning to society from incarceration. It's often most helpful to go back in time and look at the behaviors that they already have engaged in and identify some of the thoughts that led them to that behavior. So the same thing applies to us. If you binged on food, then let's go back and look at that and see what was going on. What were some of their thought processes, and what were some of the emotions, right? Because emotions play a role in this as well. But what were some of those thoughts that went on that led you to make that decision? And so if we review the past and identify some of those patterns going on, then we're going to be better able to identify and predict future behavior, right? So that's really all I'm talking about, is the self-talk, looking at some of the things that we say to ourselves that convince us to engage in a certain behavior. So what we say can impact our moods, of course, and this whole week has been talking about moods and how it impacts our health. So if we say that you're never going to be thin, if you say to yourself, well, here, I'll just share some of the things that I say to myself. I'm never going to be as good as other coaches. I'm not smart enough. Who's going to listen to me? because I'm not skin and bones. I'm not the fittest I've ever been. Who's going to listen to me? What do I have to offer, right? So those are some of the negative thoughts that keep playing in my mind and prevent me from moving forward and helping people like you. When it comes to food, right? I deserve this. It's been a long day. One Wendy's Frosty is not going to kill me, right? But it's not just that one time. That's the issue, right? It's the pattern. It's the habitualness of that thought that leads to that behavior of convincing ourselves that just one time we know is never just one time. And looking at that pattern, those trends of thoughts are going to help us come up with strategies to effectively and permanently change those thoughts so that we can then change our behaviors. So that's what it's really about. So I would encourage you guys over this, especially over the weekend, right? Especially now as we're getting into warmer weather, or just because it's life, right? Whatever the reason, start kind of paying attention. When you sit down and you finally recognize that you're engaging in a behavior that you kind of are regretting, or you're like, what am I doing? How did I get here? Kind of take that moment and say, all right, how did I get here? What did I say to myself? Start recognizing that we think before we act. Never happens the other way around. We never act and then think about the action. Always takes place. The thinking happens first. So if this is something that interests you, if this is something that you think is holding you back from making major strides in your health and wellness journey, then let me help you. I have all of the skills and the knowledge that I can help you out, but I know that it's up to you to do the work. And part of it is just knowing what to do. So let me help you. Let me be your partner in your journey for health, and we can help you strengthen your resolve. We can help you set goals and identify those patterns of thought so that you can have improved moods. And then, of course, you can make those healthier choices. So I thank you for joining me today, and I really hope that you will stay connected in this group. Drop below all your thoughts about today's session or any of the sessions. And stay tuned tomorrow. I'm going to post all of my tips of the week on a file, and you can download that and access that anytime you want. But again, if you're interested, hit me up, drop me a message, shoot me an email, go to my website, any which way you can contact me. You can contact me at Sarah B at totalwellness365.com, or you can just look up the programs, the offerings that I have on my website, totalwellness365.com, or just message me here on Facebook. I look forward to hearing from you and engaging with you in the future. Have a wonderful and safe weekend. Bye.